Marvel Snap's newest card, Arana, has released, and I have 5 decks that I think are interesting and solid homes for this exciting new card. Let's start with the Drink. This is a deck that I cooked up when Madam Web was released, and Arana is providing it a meaningful boost. It has a lot of power and a lot of ability to interact with many of the decks that are looking to go over the top, thanks to the Clog sub-theme that is happening in it. When I made it originally, it didn't have access to a card like Arana, but the bones were there, and this was a functional, solid, and good Clog deck. The other change that has come alongside Arana is the addition of Debris. This is less of a response to anything specific happening in the internal workings of this deck related to Arana, and more of a response to there are a lot of people playing Hello right now. More on that in tomorrow's video. And having a meaningful Clog game plan is one of the few, or maybe the easiest, maybe not one of the few, but definitely the easiest ways to actually be able to beat a Hella deck and feel confident into that. So that is the context into which Arana releases. There are decks that just have a very, very consistent high output range right now. And by that I mean basically Hella. You have to be aware of and scared of Hella. And if you're playing, a day in the past, you had to be aware of and scared of Agatha. Hella is just that, but more. The numbers are bigger, the things are larger, and you have to be a little more scared of it. This has been a time-honored way, using Clog to interact with decks that otherwise would go over the top of you, because if the Hella doesn't have anywhere to revive stuff, then you're going to win the game. That is the ethos of this deck, but it is using Arana and Madam Web and the Move package as a way of sort of shortcutting stats. One of the things that's really interesting to me about this deck is that this package of cards, the Move package that you can see in here, is actually comparable in power a lot of the time to like a Athena, Angela, Kitty Pryde package. It doesn't seem like it is, and it scales off of different things, but once you get like 2 procs on a dagger, it's bigger. You get more stats than anything out of Athena, Kitty Pryde, Angela package for like similar amounts of energy. You're doing something with this list that I don't think people fully grasp just yet. And it is effectively replacing what would be a Athena Angela package with a package that just generates more points. Arana, the other 1-drop movers, Madam Web, and of course your payoffs in the form of Vulture and Dagger. This is a way of creating an immense amount of points onto the board without actually investing a lot of energy. I sort of expect this kind of thing to be the kind of thing that you see other decks hybridizing in. This is a really potent points package that has a lot of ability to take over games on its own. If you've ever done something along the lines of like, have a Madam Web, play a dagger in it, move the dagger out, ghost spider it back, then clog up another lane, it's almost impossible to lose the game. And so you have the best of both worlds here. You have a large points package from the Madam Web and the Arana, and you have a Cannonball Clog deck that does everything you need it to do to keep this metagame under control. Next up is Woody Wakanya. This one was cooked up by Yo Woody, and it is doing exactly what I just talked about. We're hybridizing this as a points package into the Wiccan deck, which has recently been sort of strapped for points. You end up getting a lot of value out of this when it works the way you want it to work. Of course, this deck does have some restrictions on how that actually ends up playing out. When I played this deck, it did sort of feel like there were certain situations where I was encouraged to play my cards inefficiently in order to make sure that my Wiccan was active, and choosing between the different game plans was actually fairly difficult to me. I did feel very good about the points output that I could get out of this package. That was not the problem I had with this. If anything, the problems that I ran into when I was playing this deck were all Wiccan related. It was like, oh, well, I don't really want to be a Wiccan deck, but this points package is doing great. And I think that is sort of where I expect Arana to kind of settle in at, as like these sort of group of cards, right? You have like Arana, you have a Ghost Spider, you have 1 payoff, 2 payoff, you have a Madam Web. That package of like 5 cards and then like 1 additional mover, whether that be like, an Iron Fist or a Doctor Strange or a Heimdall, that's the kind of thing you're going to start seeing in a lot of really interesting and offbeat places, because it is just straight up powerful. What I came to the conclusion, though, was when it comes to stuff like Hela being a really popular thing in this metagame, I would just rather be hybridizing with Clog every single time. I didn't feel the value coming from the other half of the deck when I played this. The value that I felt coming from the Arana stuff was absolutely awesome. And I really wanted this deck to make sense because I wanted it to be the kind of thing where I can actually still play a mid-range deck. My fear for this metagame is that we sort of devolve into Hela, which loses to Clog, which loses to whatever, which loses to Hela, and all of the top decks are just things people really hate playing against. I know people love to talk about how, like, Marvel Snap metas suck. Someone's going to have that opinion every time. But I do think that in a world where the top things are going to be like Hela and Clog, it is really worth trying to figure out if there's anything else we can do about that. It certainly is something that scares me right now. Next up is normal move. And I know you might be thinking, what the hell, normal move? Are you serious about this, KM? And the answer is kind of yeah, and it's informed by what I learned through playing the Wiccan deck. Remember when I talked about how I felt let down by like the Wiccan half of the deck? This doesn't have the Wiccan half of the deck. Now, you can still feel let down by this, don't get me wrong, but you get more of the things that you're really trying to go at here. Your deck works together a little bit more than it does in the case of the Wiccan deck, and you have this sort of 1-2 punch mix-up on turn 6 with Heimdall and, of course, Eliath. Now, this is a deck that plays into what some people might call a not fun play pattern. There's a lot of, like, what is actually going to happen in this deck, where both you and your opponent, whether they're playing Hela or whatever, you are going to be able to distribute power in a bunch of various ways, and you basically just have to guess what their power distribution is and try to beat it by guessing what they're going to do, and then doing it because there's so many potential places for your cards to be on the final turn of the game. Every turn has a bunch of decisions in it, and I know normally a lot of decisions is like something good players love. Maybe I'm just bad, but it doesn't really feel like these decisions are super informed by anything so much as just like, educated guess, let's do it. Because everything is so new and output ranges are so hard to guess, there really does feel like there's just a lot of 50-50s in this deck. Especially if you're like, all right, let me guess where the Hela goes and Cosmo it. Let me guess where the Hela goes and Eliath it. Like, there's some stuff where it's just like, you are supposed to mathematically stay in these games, but you're going to feel real dumb if you do and you guess that 50-50 wrong. And I think that's the kind of play pattern that a lot of people are not big fans of. One advantage that this deck genuinely does have over the other move decks is the inclusion of Human Torch. Human Torch is a very, very powerful thing to be leveraging in move mirrors because it scales at such a greater rate than everything else in the entire game scales. Arana-ing a Human Torch, getting that kicked off, you get to go very, very large, and having that threat just sitting there and knowing that you're going to win one of these lanes for sure can make those 50-50s feel a lot easier on you. Arana is a welcome inclusion in Phoenix Force. I know a lot of people tried to get Madam Web in here, and Arana just sort of does a little bit better. The issue, of course, is what you have to cut to get her in there. I'm not sure about this cut, to be completely honest with you. I think it's between this or Ghost Spider, but what ended up happening here, from another top 20 player, Dopest Body, he ended up cutting the card Nico Minoru. And I realize a lot of people are going to look at that and be like, that is insane. Nico getting that Destroy spell is so busted and so incredible, and it is a play that sort of takes away a little bit of upside. Like, making this change is lowering the sort of upside potential of the deck in a relatively meaningful way. But it is also drastically amplifying your other game plans. You now have the ability to get a lot more things done when you want to actually be a Nimrod deck or a Phoenix Force deck. You are now getting a free move and some power on that Phoenix Force with Arana on there. It is absolutely busted. You are getting an additional bit of power on a Nimrod, which can really, really matter. So you're doing like your Shuri Nimrod stuff. This stuff can matter. You're moving your Nimrod additionally, or not moving it for the juke, out of the way of an Alioth or a Cosmo, which people are playing. And that extra power is actually the thing that I think is worth pointing out the most here, because there are decks in this metagame. I'm just going to drop the pretense. I'm talking about Hela, but I'm also talking about the other move decks here, where they can just beat you if you are only playing like 8 power PFs. Like, they can actually just kind of beat that, right? Because like you have a two power dude and then 3 PFs there, and it's like, okay, well, I can beat 26. I know how to do that. And I think the additional ceiling here is actually fairly important when you're actually comboing out here. I'm not sure how much life this kind of deck has right now, though, because this deck is very similar to Hela in that both of them are predicated on being too big for a normal deck to beat. And right now, I think that's more true of Hela. Like, if I were playing Hela into a PF deck, I feel like I'm probably outputting more points. And that means that this deck, while Arana is a meaningful upgrade, might not be able to survive in the coming Hela meta. Speaking of might not be able to survive, but probably is an upgrade here, I am very confident that Arana is an upgrade over Hulkbuster in Destroy. It is a 1-cost card, so you get additional procs. Instead of a Hulkbuster, you get like actual, like Killmonger can get rid of this, your death gets discounted a little bit. It is cheaper to get into your play patterns because it is a 1-cost card. You can get it down, get the move on your Deadpool. It's very, very good. I personally think of this as basically very similar to Old Forge. It is a little clunkier, right? If you draw it later, it's harder to get it down. And if you can't get it down, well, that is actually a problem. But you do, I think, benefit more from this in a meaningful way than you would from running Hulkbuster. Now, I will say, if this is what you're going to do with Arana, she's not worth buying. Like, that's very clear to me right now. This is like what we would describe as a minor upgrade. It's not the biggest upgrade in the world. You know what Destroy is already. Destroy has been struggling. This is a good upgrade. It is a solid, meaningful upgrade. It is, I guess, roughly the analogy I would draw for it is it's like going from Deathlock to Venom, maybe, where it's like, this is better. It is clearly better. But how much, right? Like, how much better are we talking here? I think it's actually probably a smaller gap than Deathlock and Venom, to be honest with you. Venom has probably a little more upside compared to Deathlock than Arana does compared to Hulkbuster. I think it's like going from maybe a 5 to a 6.5 is sort of how I would describe it. So if you happen to pick up Arana already, this is totally fine. You are going to run into issues of point output if you're not nutting off. I think everyone sort of is familiar with how Destroy tends to work right now. It's kind of tough to keep up with some of the point output you can get. But, you know, there are a lot of people playing Clog, and maybe you end up in a good spot thanks to that as well. Who knows? And when you really start going off with this deck, you get very good numbers. It's just you really are reliant on drawing all these cards early and then having the right follow-up late. It's very much about draw the right cards, have them at the right time, and that sort of lack of consistency can really impact you negatively. I do also want to give a special shout out to Killmonger, who is just kind of an all-star right now against everything but Hela. Just not really a card against Hela, but like this is a card that allows you to interact with people playing giant human torches. It allows you to interact with people who are still playing Wiccan decks, blow up all their stuff. A card that just generally does a lot for this deck. And usually the way I think about Destroy is if Killmonger is not good into like the best deck, I start worrying about it. And right now, I think the best deck is probably Hela. Killmonger's not good into it, but it can clear up Clog stuff. It can kill off Wiccan stuff. It can blow up Human Torch. It's good enough into other things that I don't think Destroy is like DOA, but I do think that it really needs to draw right in order to compete. All right, y'all, thank you so much for making it through that video. I realize many people watch these videos looking for, should I buy Arana right now? My advice at this time is to hold off. I don't know how long that will be, and I also don't know exactly how that's going to go, because the reason I'm advising you to hold off is because of Hela. However, if you are confident that you want to play a deck like the Drink and you can just beat up Hela gamers with that, She is a legitimate upgrade there, I think. I think she is a better option in at least that archetype. And so I do think it's possible that move stuff really starts to impact the metagame, especially if they find Hela to be like a power level outlier or something like that, which when I played it, it sort of felt like. I can't really lie to you about that. That's probably tomorrow's video. But on the whole, I think Arana is a solid move card, and I'm getting more convinced on the sort of 5 or 6 card move package as just a good stats package. And I think she is a part of that, where it's like Arana, Madam Web, Vulture, Dagger, and Ghost Spider. That package can kind of go in a lot of places and serves a similar role to like Fina Angela stuff, but it is a higher ceiling and a more fragile and lower floor. So that's sort of how I would talk about her right now, where I feel like her value is sort of tied to that package's value. That it has gotten to this level where it is good enough to splash in a bunch of shit is actually pretty encouraging, but I can't guarantee that it will stay there because, again, like, you know, it's much weaker to things like Shadow King. It's much weaker to things like Shang-Chi because the ceiling is higher. There is more counterplay to it as well. And with that, this video does not come to an end because we're going to put some gameplay on the end, but my smiling face might do so. Thank you so much for watching. I've been Cam Best. You have been phenomenal. Enjoy the Cam Boost, and I will see you in the next one. Hello was even ever close to good, to be honest with you. I'm hyperventilating. Does this win? See, ball left always wins? What if they play hella mid? Vormir? But it's not gonna be there. Like, it's gonna... Hold on a second. I don't know. See, the thing dies, right? You see the issue here? Oh, it doesn't die. It doesn't die now. Oh, I get it. Yeah, okay. It was fine. Hold these. Is there an Arana bug or interaction we're not expecting? Not necessarily, no. What do I even do here? Probably just play a goblin. They snap me. Let's see. Oh, God. Nice! Let's go, dude. Let's go, dude. I was there. You might not know that. Yep. Yep. I feel like I want to hold this one. Bro might just be spared. Does he always get this mad when he loses? Oh, yeah, totally. That's not even like a 10. You're just gone. How do I want to handle this? If I go like this, carnage away these. I'm moving in Wiccan, Hawkeye, Maria Hill, or just Wiccan, Hawkeye. They didn't make a play. Do I lose to them not making a play? I do not. I do not lose to them not making a play. Okay, we have 3 1s and 3 2s in the deck, so most of the time we're going to be able to get a card that we can play. Oh, I'm playing the wrong Kitty Pride. Okay, so now we have 2 2s and a 3. Not as likely to get there, unfortunately. Now we're on a 50-50. Okay. We can wick it up here, I think. We can wick it up here, I think. Whoa, they snapped me? I guess they're moving the Bob. Maybe I am dead. Who knows? Well, well, well. Well, well, well. Feels a little crazy to me. Right, yep, lost the Madam Web. But we would have lost the Wiccan anyway. You play Husky Hella? No. I play the things I want to play. Chat, how long have I been streaming? I need you to relax. I don't know how good the deck is yet. Y'all gotta stop. Bro. Okay, there's no way I win, right? Right? Where would you play the Hella here? Any guessers? Any guessers? Guessers in the chat, baby. It's just a question though. Why snap there? Don't you think the opponent would stay for the 2? I honestly figured he was gonna leave anyway. And since it's gnome, it's like, okay, I don't really mind. I'm good with it. Explain why you're not running Human Torch? It's just not as good at dealing with that thing. I kind of feel like they might be in a Nihilist deck. Feels Nihilist-ish. Is there like a way I can make this not be ass for me? I fill up the left. Probably getting annied. Jeez, okay. So, like, how big is Ajax right now? Is the answer too fucking big? What if they're just trying to send shit over to me? What if this is a setup for the Annihilist play? Whatever. I'll just die. Oh, guess I won't? Alright, cool. Love it. This meta is ass, man. Phoenix Force. Hell yeah, brother. That's not how that shit works at all. Okay. Quicksilver? Real? It's not Arshem. Yeah, it's Wiccan. I think they are probably dead. I think they are probably no longer going to be able to play cards past this turn. Jeff, Arana, I mean, that's dope as hell, dude. However, they are no longer able to play cards. I think that generally speaking, whenever you are no longer able to play cards on turn 6, you're probably dead. Now, I mean, what do I know, right? Like, I don't know anything. But it is my impression. Yep. The part where they are not able to play any more cards is bad,